Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Narsimhananda Brahma, Senior Resident. Today, I am going to deal with orthopedic implants and instruments. First of all, I would like to know the purpose of this class. And first thing is you should know the basic instruments and implants using in the orthopedics. Second one is to appear for exams. And instruments, this carries 5 marks in your Viva exam and final exam, and x-rays another five marks, and you should secure full out of full, or 4 out of maximum you can gain, or 4 or 5 out of 5 in this category. So please pay attention to this class. First thing is, what do you mean by implant, instrument, prosthesis and orthosis? You should know the definitions they will ask in exam, and you should know the difference between these terms. Implant is anything, any device which is surgically placed into the body, designed to restore the function of that part by replacing or reinforcing the damaged structure, which are used for fracture fixation and fracture fixation in orthopedics. And instrument is a tool, a specific tool designed for performing specific surgeries and or operations, such as modifying a biological tissue or to provide access for viewing the operating field. That is instrument. And third one is prosthesis. Prosthesis is anything, it is artificial device that replaces a missing body part which may be lost through a trauma and restores its function that is prosthesis. What is the difference between, now you can understand the difference between implant and prosthesis. Implant is to reinforce the damaged structure. Here the structure is not lost or not missed. Here the structure or part of a bone is lost, body part is lost, part of the body is lost through trauma, or it can be removed through surgery in tumorous conditions or any congenital conditions. The body part is lost and it is replaced by a device, that is prosthesis. And in Viva, they will ask non-union and mal-union definitions. Non-union, in general, according to the FDA, is stated that when a minimum of 9 months has elapsed after injury or no progressive sign of healing occurred for 3 months. See, okay, 3 months. It differs from fracture to fracture. In case of fracture neck of femur, we need not wait 9 months to say whether it is non-union has established or not. We can tell non-union of fracture neck of femur after 3 months. We need not wait for 9 months. Next, malunion is the fracture is healed, but in non-anatomical position, not in anatomical position. Healing, the fracture fragments are healed in non-anatomical position or unacceptable position. Fracture united with angulation, like this. See, this is the bone and this is fracture. And if it is united in angulated manner, then it is said to be malunion, or rotation rotation, or loss of end-to-end opposition or overlap and shortening of the bone. That is malunion. Then S-mark band is, it is made up of latex rubber with the two straps in picture. Here you can see the two straps. Two straps. It is available in various widths 4.5 inches, 6 inches, and it is about 2 meters long. Now you can latex free sterilizable SMART bandages are available in the market nowadays, and the prerequisites for tourniquet application are you should keep the limb elevated for a minimum of 5 minutes and do examination of a limb from distal to proximal if not contraindicated. And contraindications for examination are peripheral arterial diseases, severe crush injury, malignant tumors, and contraindication for tourniquet application are deep vein thrombosis and infection. The main reason for contraindication is in tumor conditions the tumor cells may spread proximally, and in deep vein thrombosis the thrombus may dislodge from the site and it may cause pulmonary embolism. And infection it will spread from distal to proximal. Homan's retractor. In for each implant or instrument, first of all you should identify and name it. Second one is parts. You should know the parts of the implant. And third one is its uses. Fourth one is its clinical importance or contraindications or techniques to use. These four you have to know, and the examiner will expect these four from each of the implant in exam. Homan's retractor, it is a handle with one or two holes to make it lighter and a flattened blade with hook. This is flattened blade and with a hook to retract the soft tissue against bony point. Okay. Variation is it is of two types, narrow or wide, and pointed tip or blunted tip, small tip or long tip, vented at variable angle. This can be used like any other retractors, but its specific indication are to retract the tissue at the margins of the joint, like when you use it in total knee arthroplasty, and to retract the tissue around the acetabulum in total hip arthroplasty, and the cobra retractor. These retractors are similar to the Homan's retractor with some modifications. A blade just like a hood of a snake cobra here. This here the blade is flattened, and in cobra retractor it will be like, I will show you. I will draw and show the picture. That is cobra head retractor. Next one is this is Trethovan's bone lever, or you can call it as spike. It is similar to Lane bone lever, but having a long blade with a hook at one end and ring at the another end. Here it appears like a spike, no? That's why we will call it a spike. This picture shows the osteotome. It is a blunt flat top. This is the handle, stout handle. And this is quadrangular shaft, flattened and both edges are beveled. Both edges of the shaft is beveled and sharp. This is the blunt flat top on which we will hammer with a strike with a hammer. Variations, it may be the shaft may be straight or curved, and uses it is used for cutting of bone and for making osteoperiosteal flap. Here we can see the cross section and lateral view of the chisel, and this shows the lateral picture or lateral view of the osteotomy. Here only one edge is beveled. Here both edges are beveled, used to chip the bone or to remove the bone layer by layer, and it is used to cut or divide the bone. That is the difference between chisel and osteotomy, and you should not confuse in exam. Bone chisel, same, it is similar to the osteotomy, blunt flat top on which you will strike with a hammer, and this is the stout handle, and quadrangular shaft flattened and both edges are beveled. Variations are, it is available in straight and curved type, and uses for removal of unwanted callus at the non-union site or to remove the fibrous tissue, and for saucerization and chronic osteomyelitis. This is bone goose, and it has a stout handle with a blunt flat top on which you will hammer, and curved blade with a sharp end. It is available in two types, straight and curved type, and it is used for harvesting bone graft. Bone nibbler will this picture shows bone nibbler, and here is one joint, here is one joint, and we will call it as a double action bone nibbler. It will increase the strength what we apply on the handles. It will increase the strength near the nibbling part tip. It will double the force at the tip. Parts are handle piece with spring action. This is the spring action, and a hinge, single or double action, and cupped blades with sharp edges. Variation, it is available in straight. This one is straight and this one is curved one. And for smoothing the ends of, uses are for smoothing the ends of bone, for biting of excess bone, for removal of unwanted fibrous tissue, and they are available in various types. Famous one is Ranger type. And most importantly, you should know the name name of the complete name, full name of that implant or instrument. This is periosteal elevator. In the exam, you have to tell the complete name. Farabius periosteal elevator. Here, its parts are handle, thumb rest. This one is thumb rest, and uh, it has a curved tip, and which is beveled and sharp beveled tip. Uses are for raising the periosteum from the bone, and so that the plate or implant which we want to put on the bone will not slip over the periosteum. Why you should elevate the periosteum? Periosteum is slippery, tough and slippery structure, hence any instrument may slip over it. So to get a safer plane, as neurovascular structures are retracted away along with the periosteum, and helps in reduction of the displaced fracture. Jones periosteal elevator. This is another type. This is Jones periosteal elevator. It is curved with a curved handle. Okay. This thumb rest is near to the tip so that we will get better control while using the instrument over the bone. Jigglis. This is braided stainless steel wire with loop at ends, and it has two hooks used for cutting bone during the amputation of limb, and used for osteotomy like Salter's osteotomy or McMurray's osteotomy, which you use for the treatment of non-union of neck of femur. This implant shows Haygrove's bone holders, and it has two long handles and a joint box and two blades which are serrated on inner side for better grip, and it has a locking mechanism, speed lock mechanism at the top of the handle piece. And these blades are convex and rounded to accommodate the convexity of the bone and to make better grip. This is the drill bit. It is available in variations are solid and cannulated. This picture shows a solid one, and it has a round cylindrical stem with a pointed tip and two sharp cutting edges. Two sharp, this one, and this one. Sharp cutting edges used for making hole in a bone before passing a screw. It makes a hole for the passage of screw, and it has a quadrangular distal end for better hold in a T-handle or drill machine. It is available in various lengths and various diameters, and there is definite relationship between drill bit diameter and cortical and cancellous screw diameter. Always the drill bit size is less than some 0.5 to 0.7 mm less than the screw. Its companion instrument, it is used along with the manual or electrical drill machine. Do you know this instrument? In surgery also we'll use this one. In plastic surgery also we'll use. This is Humby's knife to harvest used for harvesting skin graft of various thickness. Ultra thin skin graft, partial uh, partial thickness graft, and full thickness graft. It has a handle, quadrangular handle, and attachment for blade, and these two knobs at the two sides. You can adjust it for the graft thickness. Here is the locking mechanism after putting the blade. Steinman pin. Steinman pin. It is round in cross section and smooth and rounded shaft with a trocar tip. Trocar tip means, I'll show you. It is like this one, trocar tip. Okay, and quadrangular top to hold firmly in T handle. It is available in 3 to 6 mm with the interval of 0.5 mm difference, and available in lengths 15 centimeters to 30 centimeters with the interval of 5 centimeters. And it is used for skeletal traction and good quality bone. Good quality bone means normal adult bone. And its variant is Derham pin. Derham pin, it is similar to Steinman pin. Same, it has similar trocar tip, but its middle part is threaded. Okay, its middle part is threaded one, and thread diameter is 0.5 mm more than the shaft. This is shaft and this is the threaded portion. It is this diameter, threaded portion diameter is 0.5 mm more than the shaft diameter, and it has a quadrangular top. It is available in similar sizes, diameter 3 to 6 mm, and length is available in 15 to 30 centimeters with an interval of 5 centimeters, and it is used for similar skeletal traction and in osteoporotic bone and fully cancellous bone like calcaneum. Okay, so that these threads will hold the bone tightly, and this Steinman pin has a plain shaft which will not get good hold in osteoporotic bones or cancellous bone. So the main difference is the middle part is threaded one, which gets better hold in osteoporotic bone and cancellous bone. So it's used in skeletal traction in cancellous bones like calcaneum and osteoporotic bones. This is the sand screw. See here the distal part is threaded and the tip is pointed, and a rounded shaft with a quadrangular top. So minor differences will be there with, I will show other pictures also where you can easily differentiate. Okay. Now you see the parts. There are three parts: tip and threaded part, shaft, and quadrangular top. Before passing these pin into the bone, we have to make drill holes with the drill bit. Already we have seen the drill bit, no? Before passing the tip, make a drill hole before inserting it, and threaded portion engages in far cortex. This is far cortex and this is near cortex. We'll pass the pin from near cortex to far cortex, and the threaded portion should engage in the far cortex, and near cortex the shaft should engage in the near cortex, and top of the quadrangular top to be held firmly by the T handle. Sizes, these are available in 2 to 6 mm. And Steinman pin and Durham pin available in 3 to 6 mm. Shanch pin is available in 2 to 6 mm with interval of 0.5 mm. And femur, tibia, and humerus. We will use different sizes of Shanch pins for different fractures. And for metacarpal and metatarsal fractures, we will use 2.5 mm. And these sizes you need not remember, just to know. The small ones for small bones and larger ones for large bones. 2.5 mm Shanch pins for metacarpal and metatarsal fractures, and 3.5 mm for radius and ulna forearm fractures. For forearm bones, 3.5 mm, and for humerus 4.5 mm, and tibia 5 mm, femur 5.5. Largest and strongest bone is femur. For that, we will use 5.5 mm Shanch pins. Smaller than that, tibia 5 mm, and for humerus 4.5 mm. And used for these uses are used along with the external fixator or LRS. This picture shows this is LRS, limb reconstructive system, LRS, similar to external fixator. Another versatile implant is Kirshner's wire. In short form, we will call it as K wire. They will ask the full name of the what do you mean by K and what is the spelling of the Kirshner. They will ask in Viva exam, and you need to identify this. And its parts are it has also a trocar tip at both ends and rounded shaft. Its variations are the tips may be the ends of the both ends may be smooth or threaded one, and it may have a stopper in the middle, which is usual for compression, to get compression at the fracture site. These are available in 1 to 3.5 mm sizes with an interval of 0.5 mm. You don't write all this matter, just you write the implant names, and I will share the Later I will send you this PPT. Just you write and try to understand what I am telling, and try to understand the differentiating features between similar instruments or implants. Okay. You just after that you can prepare. I will send you this PPT and you can prepare, but you try to understand and know the differentiating features or differentiating features between similar instruments and where we are using these instruments. Okay. These sizes are available. These are available in 1 to 3.5 mm, with the interval of 0.5 mm. And uses are similar to Steinman pin. Here you have seen the Steinman pin. Steinman pin we will use for Steinman pin, and Denham pin we will use for skeletal traction in adults. In K-wire, for pediatric cases, we need not use that much big or thick pins like Steinman pin. Thin wires like Kirchner's wires can be used for pediatric skeletal traction, and it is used for fixation of pediatric fracture like supracondylar fracture humerus and physeal injuries, epiphyseal physeal injuries. We can fix it with K-wires, and for fixation after correction of deformity like tibia vara and congenital vertical talus. After correcting the deformity, we will fix it in corrected position with this K-wire. As a component of tension band wiring for patella fractures and olecranon fractures, we will use along with the SS wire, stainless steel wire, as a component of tension band wiring. And it is also used for temporary scaffolding for fixation of periarticular fractures. For periarticular fractures like distal femur, femoral condyle fractures, severely comminuted fractures, then we will reduce the fractures. For if it is severely comminuted, if it is severely comminuted, if it is five parts, femoral condyles are broken into or fractured five fragments, then we will make it first five fragments to four fragments, four to three fragments, three to two fragments, and we will keep these fragments in normal anatomical position by holding temporarily with a K wire. After that, we will put plate and fix it with screws. Then we will remove the K wire. That is, and see this picture. Here the K wires are used for fracture fixation of supracondylar fracture in the children. This is the pediatric X-ray showing the elbow joint with the distal humerus and proximal both bones forearm. For supracondylar fracture, they have fixed it with K-wires, and this is the proximal end. They have passed from lateral to medial. This is radius. This is ulna. So radius is on lateral side. They have passed from lateral condyle to medial, and this is outside. The distal end is bent acutely. Why they have bent? End of the K wire protruding from the skin is acutely bent, and rest of the wire is cut down. Why they have bent? To prevent migration of the K wire proximally. And after the fracture has healed after 3 weeks or 4 weeks, they will remove this K wire. For easy removal, this bent end will be useful. See here also distal radius fracture. Distal radius fracture where they have fixed with K wires, two K wires, along with that below elbow cast. This shows stainless steel wires wrapped over wire pool. These are available in 16 gauge to 30 gauge with a difference of 2 gauges. And as the sizing number gauge increases, the size of the wire decreases. 16 gauge is 1.6 mm wire and 30 gauge is 0.3 mm wire. What are its uses? It is used as a component of tension band wiring, as already said in K wires, to hold the comminuted fractures where screw fixation is not possible during the intramedullary nailing in long bone. And it is also used for the comminuted fracture patella for encircling, and it is used for reconstruction of comminuted greater trochanter. Where all you can use the tension band wiring: patella fractures, olecranon fractures, medial malleolar fractures, and greater trochanter of femur fractures. You can use the tension band wiring, and in proximal humerus, greater tuberosity fracture. So it is used in the reconstruction of comminuted greater trochanter and encirclage of comminuted fracture patella, or for simple fracture, it is used along with K wires. Along with K wires as a tension band wiring, and for long bones where the fracture is comminuted, for holding the comminuted fractures we will use along with intramedullary nail. This is tension band wiring. The main principle is uh, tensile forces are converted into compressive forces. Here, the transverse fracture of patella, here the upper surface or anterior surface of patella is convex, and the under surface or lower surface of patella is concave. Here, this on this the tensile forces will act, and on the concave side the compressive forces will act. Here the quadriceps muscle, which will pull the superior fragment, and the patellar ligament will pull the inferior fragment over the tensile surface. These tensile forces are destructive and will not be useful for fracture healing. So in tension band wiring, these two are K wires and this is the SS wire. It converts the tensile forces into compressive forces while while flexing the knee or while walking. Okay, here the same what I told is given here, and the principle is eccentrically loaded bone tension on the convex side and compression on the concave side. Tensile forces are observed by the tension band wire. This is the undersurface compression forces are acting on the undersurface or concave surface. On over the convex surface, the tensile forces are acting. These tensile forces are not useful for fracture healing, and these tensile forces are absorbed by the tension band wire and converted into compressive forces. Tension band wiring, these are of two types: static tension band wiring and dynamic tension band wiring. Static tension band wiring is the tension band creates desired compression at the time of application, means during the surgery only whatever compression we will apply that will remain, and it will not, and the additional compression forces will not act. This principle or this type of tension band wiring we will use for medial malleolar fractures. And for dynamic tension band wiring, fracture fragments are subjected to additional compression when the skeletal muscle comes under normal physiological load. Like in patella, when we flex the knee or when we bear weight after the surgery, then this quadriceps will pull this fragment, and the additional this pull will be converted into compression force by the tension band wiring while walking. This is dynamic tension band wiring. Dynamic means while functioning the joint, or while when the force acts on the bone or joint, then additional compression force will be acting on that at that fracture site. And this is malleolar screws. Plates and screw will deal separately. Plates and screws. Plates and screws will deal separately. Just uh, grossly screws. You write these points. Screws are of two types. Okay. Cortical screws, cancellous screws. Cortical screws we will use for cortical bones, and cancellous screws we will use for cancellous bones. Cancellous bones example: calcaneum, and distal ends of long bones near the condyles, like femoral condyles, proximal tibia. There we will use the proximal tibia and distal femur. We will use the condyles has cancellous bone, and we will use the cancellous screws here. What is the difference between cortical screws and cancellous screws? See, for this, first we have to know the parts of the screw. See, this picture shows parts of the screw, and this is the head of the screw, and below that is the, we will call it as land or countersink, which will be fitted into the whole of the plate. And this is the shaft or shaft length, and this is the thread length. Total head, shaft and thread length, we will call it as length of the screw. And the junction between shaft and threaded portion is known as the runout, which is the narrowest part or and weakest part, and most probably the screw when loaded eccentrically, or when uneven load is applied over it, then it will screw will break and implant failure occurs at this runout portion. And this is the pitch. The distance between two successive threads is known as pitch. And this is the shaft diameter or core diameter, and this is the thread diameter. Okay. And thread depth is nothing but thread depth. Thread depth is equal to shaft diameter minus core diameter by 2. Shaft diameter minus core diameter by 2. See, this is the thread diameter and this is the shaft diameter. If you subtract this one, then we will get the thread depth on both sides. On each side, if we want, then by 2 we have to do. And this is the tip. It may be trocar tip or cutting tip. The screw may be solid one or cannulated one. Various types of screws are there. Various classifications also there. Basically, it is of two types: cortical screws and cancellous screws. What is the difference between cortical screws and cancellous screws? Now you have learnt about parts of the screws. For cortical screws, the number of threads will be more. Number of threads will be more. For cancellous screws, it will be less. And for cortical screws, the pitch is less. Pitch means the distance between two threads. The distance between two consecutive threads is less in cortical screws. And whereas cancellous screws, it is more. As the pitch is less, more number of threads will be there in cortical screw. And then depth. Thread depth also less in cortical screw. Okay, cortical screw. Thread depth is more in cancellous screws. Then another term is a lead. What is lead? Lead is nothing but the distance or the length traveled by the screw when you rotate one complete rotation. When the screw is turned into complete rotation, the distance traveled by it is known as lead. See, cortical screws and cancellous screws, more threads. This is cortical screw. This is cancellous screws. Cancellous screws may be partially threaded or fully threaded. In this picture, it shows a partially threaded. And say cortical screws, more number of threads, less pitch, and lead is also less. And thread depth also less. Here, thread depth is more, less number of threads, but the distance between two threads is more, nothing but pitch. Pitch is more and lead is more. See, cortical screws used for diaphyseal fractures. Diaphysis means it is cortical bone, and it is cancellous bones are used. Cancellous screws are used for metaphyseal fractures. Metaphyseal fractures. It may be partially threaded or fully threaded. Most commonly used are partially threaded one. It is available in two sizes, 4 mm and 6 mm sizes, 6.5 mm sizes. 4 mm CC screws are used for medial and lateral malleoli fractures. Medial and lateral malleoli fractures, cancellous. This screw will be kept in exam. You have to recognize partially threaded 4 mm partially threaded cancellous screw, which will be used for medial and lateral malleoli. And 6.5 mm screws for used for tibial distal tibia, proximal tibia, and distal femoral condyle fractures and fractured neck of femur. Here we will use the 6.5 mm screws. Cortical fractures, cortical screws. Again, it is of for small bones. We will use small size screws, 3.5 mm and 4.5 mm screws, humerus tibia and femur. Okay, I will go back. See, malleolar screw. Basic types of screws are cortical screws and cancellous screw, and other special type of screws are nothing but malleolar screw is a special type of screw where it is cortical screw, solid one. It is means there is no hollow inside, solid screw, partially threaded, and trocar tip. Trocar tip. I have already shown the diagram. and it is 4.5 mm diameter and used for malleolar fractures earlier. But nowadays we are using 4 mm. Earlier this is 4.5 mm diameter, and now we are using 4 mm CC screws. At present, partially threaded 4 mm cancellous screw has taken its place, which I have shown the diagram. Okay. How do you differentiate? CC means cannulated cancellous screws. If it is partially threaded, cannulated is there, means hollow is there. We can see from the screw head or at the tip there will be a narrow lumen. Hollowness will be there. That is cannulated. Then you can identify it as 4 mm cannulated cancellous screw. 4 mm cannulated cancellous screw. Or if there is no hollow inside, when you see from the top of the screw, from the screw head, when you see there is no hollowness there, if it is a solid screw and partially threaded, then you have to go for, then you have to name it as malleolar screw. Main thing is this one, solid screw. This is solid screw, and 4 mm CC screw is cannulated one. Based upon that, you can remember the size. This is malleolar screw is 4.5 mm diameter, and cancellous screw is 4 mm diameter. Cortical is 4.5 and cancellous is 4 mm. This is another type, locking screw or locking head screw. These are basically cortical screws with features like threaded head. This is the head. Now the countersink portion of the head has threads which will fit into the threads in the hole of the plate. Can be applied only in the locking plates, not in dynamic plates. And cancellous locking screws are also being used in metaphyseal plates along with the cortical screw in some designs. Both screws head has head locking in the plate. Means both screws means cortical and cancellous screws can be locked in the plate, and both have different pitches. The interaction between screw and bone interface is the difference in two types of bones, cortical bone and cancellous screws, cortical and cancellous screws. These locking screws are mainly available. These are mainly of cortical screws. Basically, a cortical type and cancellous types are also available. Both are both the screws are locked in the plate, and both have different pitches, cortical screws and cancellous screws. And the interaction between screw and bone interface between cortical locking screws and cancellous locking screws are different. I will show the picture, then you will understand. The plate, locking plate, when I will show the locking plate, there the holes in the plate will have threads. These the threads of the head of the screw, threads of the head of the screw, these threads will lock in the threads of the hole in the plate. This is the interlocking bolt, cortical screw, interlocking bolt. uh, why these are called bolt, not screws? See, screws are used along with plates, and for nails we will use bolts. Interlocking nail, for interlocking nail we will use interlocking bolt. What is the difference between screw, cortical screw and this interlocking bolt? This interlocking bolt is stout one and having trocar tip, that to have trocar tip, and core diameter is more. That is the difference. Core diameter is more and thread depth is less, and pitch is more. Pitch is more. Now you can differentiate between cancellous screws, cortical screws, and interlocking bolts. Trocar tip you can see in all the three, and core diameter is more in more in cancellous and interlocking bolts. Thread core diameter is more in interlocking bolts and cortical screws. For cancellous screws, the core diameter is very less. Here you can write core diameter increasing order or decreasing order. You write core diameter interlocking bolt is more than cortical screw, more than cancellous screw. So core diameter is highest for interlocking bolt, and thread depth is more for cancellous, more uh, more for thread depth. Thread depth is more for cancellous, greater than thread depth more than thread depth is more for cancellous screws, more than cortical, more than interlocking bolt. See here pitch is more for cancellous, greater than interlocking bolt, greater than cortical screw. See, this is rush nail, which you can easily identify by saying this, and it has a hook at its one end, and other end is blunt and has a beveled edge. Okay, it is a centromedullary nail. Centromedullary means you can pass the nail into the medullary canal, starting from the entry point, which is in center, which is inline with the center of the medullary canal. So centromedullary nail. Okay. Now you write the classification of nails. Classification of nails. Centromedullary nails. Centromedullary nails. Condylomedullary nails. Condylomedullary nails. Condylomedullary nails. Cephalomedullary nails. Cephalomedullary nails. Centromedullary nails. Example is interlocking nail, rush nail, square nail. Condylomedullary nails. Here will enter the nail will enter into the medullary canal through the condyles, like Ender's nail and TENS, titanium elastic nailing system, TENS nail. And third one is cephalomedullary. It is similar to the centromedullary line, but has fixation into the head of the femur. Cephalo means head. Example is PFN, proximal femoral nail. Proximal femoral nail. Second one is recon nail, reconstruction nail. In short form, recon, RECON. These two are examples. for cephalomedullary nails. These are the types of nails. And another classification is first generation, second generation, and third generation nails. First generation, it has no rotational stability. Second generation, minimum rotational stability. Third generation has rotational stability. For first generation, examples are rush nail, K nail, V nail. For second generation, square nail, and third generation, interlocking nail. Okay. Here the parts of the nail, it is a centromedullary nail, one end having the beveled edge. This edge is beveled edge, beveled tip for easy migration in the medullary cavity, and another end has a hook. It prevents inward migration of the nail. This one, see, inward migration of the nail, and in medullary cavity, and after fracture healing for easy extraction of the nail. It is cylindrical shaft and no rotational stability, so it comes under first generation nail. Uses are it is used for fracture fibula. Nowadays most commonly used for only fibula, but earlier it was used for fracture both bones, forearm, and fracture humerus also. Earlier it was used, but now interlocking nails plates have come into the market. So disadvantages are it has no rotational stability. See, this is the rush nail, and this is a bone, and this is the bone, and there is no locking mechanism. So the bone fragments may slightly rotate around the nail. It cannot prevent the rotation of the fracture fragments of the long bone. So it has no rotational stability, and it has no locking mechanism. Commonly available in 2 to 4 mm diameter with a variation of 0.5 millimeter of various lengths. You just remember the variation of all the nails is 0.5 mm only. Talwakar square nail. Why it is called square nail? The cross section is square. Okay. In parts of the nail, it is also a centromedullary nail, and one end is threaded for easy insertion and extraction. The tail end is threaded, and another end is tongue shaped for radius square nail and trocar tipped for ulnar square nail. Okay. Now I will draw and show the tips. See, this is trocar tip for ulna, and this is tongue shaped, or the cross section is R shaped, R for radius. Okay. By this you can identify the nail. This is the rush nail, and square cross section ulnar square nail. See the picture. And this is radius square nail, which is R shaped, beveled, and tongue shape. See, see the tip. These nails will be surely kept in exam, and you should be thorough enough to identify and name its parts and its uses. Okay. This is Talwakar square nail, a centromedullary nail. One end is threaded for easy insertion and extraction, the tail end, and the tip is tongue shaped in radius square nail and trocar tipped in ulnar square nail. Square shaped shaft, partial rotational stability. So it comes under second generation. Second generation. Okay. Principle is 3 point fixation. For every nail, you can. What is the principle? If they ask, you can tell 3 point fixation for every nail. Every nail works on the principle of 3 point fixation. For fracture, both bones forearm you are using nowadays, and for fibula in compound fractures, and for fibula and for humerus fractures, we use it rarely. And disadvantages are these do not provide rotational stability, complete absolute rotational stability it does not provide, and no locking mechanism, and commonly available in 1.5 to 6.5 mm of various lengths. This is a Ender's nail. It is curved nail and condylocephalic nail. I have already told condylocephalic nail, and one end is flattened with eye, means with a hole for insertion and extraction of the nail, and another end is blunt and beveled. Square shaped shaft, partial rotational stability. It provides partial rotational stability, and principally it works on the 3 point fixation. These are used for femur fracture, fracture tibia, humerus, long bone fractures. You can use it, and these are primarily used for fracture fixation and trochanteric and subtrochanteric fractures area of the femur, comminuted fractures. And disadvantages: these do not provide rotational stability and no locking mechanism. Okay, see this is the flat end. This is the flat end. This is the flat end, and this is the blunt end with beveled edge. And this, you can see it is see flat end with an eyelet at one end. This is ender snail. This is the hallmark of the snail. You should remember. K nail. Again, it is an important nail, and K means here Kunstner's nail. K wire is different from K nail. K wire is Kirchner's wire, and K nail is Kunstner's cloverleaf nail. Gerhard Kunstler is the pioneer of inventing this nail, and it is the first father of all nails, and it works on the principle of 3 point fixation again. Where are the 3 points? One is at the entry point near the piriformis fossa. Piriformis fossa is at the junction of neck and greater trochanter, and second one is isthmus, where a narrowest part of femur is isthmus, and third one is condylar bone, cancellous bone, distal femur condyles of there, no, the cancellous bed acts as the third point where the nail is buried in the cancellous bone. Cancellous bone. These 3 points acts as 3 point fixation for K nail. How to identify this nail? It is clover leaf in cross section. See this one. This is the This is clover leaf in cross section, and an eye or fenestration at two ends for easy extraction, and hollow. It is hollow for passage of guide wire, and it's useful for continuity of marrow continuity. Kuntzer's cloverleaf intramedullary nail or K nail. Indication is used for fracture femur, most commonly used for femur only, and other humerus and tibia fractures also you can use. And ideally, in a young patient with a junction of most commonly will use for fractures of upper and middle thirds, not for distal thirds, because distal third is wider. The medullary canal is wider, and so it does not provide better hold. Junction of upper and middle third, and no combination transfers or short oblique fractures we will use for K. We will use K nail. It has two eyes. This is the eye. This picture shows eyes for removal of a posterior medial part of a femur, and along this one, this part, this it has a slot on the one side and a metallic continuity on other side. This slot should occupies the anterolateral part of the femur, anterolateral direction, and normally the femur is slightly curved anterolaterally. Anterolaterally side is tensile surface and medial surface is compressive surface. So more of the load is exerted on the compressive surface. So there is metallic, this part, this metallic continuity is there, no? This should come, metallic bar should come on compressive side, and this hollow slot is there, no? The slot should come towards the anterolateral side. Posterior medial part of femur is compressive side, and anterolateral part of the femur is tensile side. This slot should come towards tensile side. This is interlocking nail. See, it has 2 to 3 holes distally and 2 holes proximally. Okay, and this interlocking bolts you have seen, no? Those bolts should be inserted to these holes to prevent the rotation, like this. Interlocking bolts. This is interlocking nail. This is V nail. V nail, the cross section is V shaped and it has a gutter posteriorly used for tibia fractures, and this gutter can be filled up with antibiotic bone cement in infected tibia cases. For infected non-union cases, the parenteral antibiotics cannot reach the infected site, so you have to supply the antibiotic locally. For local bleaching of the antibiotic, we will keep the antibiotic bone cement in this gutter and we will insert this nail for infected non-union fracture tibia cases. See, this is the antibiotic duff, and we will keep it in K nail or V nail. K nail for femur and V nail for tibia. Then we will insert in the infected area, is debrided and fixed with antibiotic coated nail. This is the Moore spin, where it is threaded on one side and plain on other side, and it has a trocar tip and 2 knobs used for fracture neck of femur in children, because other screws where you have 6.5 cancellous screws we use for fracture neck of femur in adults, it will cause disruption of growth plate. So to avoid that, we will use this Moore spin for in pediatric cases. This is Austin Moore prosthesis. Austin Moore prosthesis. This will be definitely kept in exam, and it has a ball which resembles the femur head. This is the head, and this part is neck. This is the head, and this part is neck, and this is collar, and this is shoulder. You write down the parts: head, neck, collar, shoulder, and stem. See, fenestrations. It has 2 fenestrations in the stem. Stem has 2 fenestrations, which makes the prosthesis lighter. and to detect in X-rays and to keep bone graft inside the which is extracted from the femur head will keep it inside so that osteosynthesis will take place and the process will be held tightly. And here is another fenestration or eye for removal of the processes when needed. Indications are intracapsular fracture neck of femur, transcervical or subcapital fractures, or with a little bit of intact neck should be there. Prerequisite is intact neck. This is Austin Moore processes. This is Austin Moore process. When you see these two holes and the eyelet, then you go for Austin Moore process. Thompson processes is basal neck fracture. When there is no a minimum of 1 centimeter, 1 centimeter neck should be there to use the Austin Moore processes. When there is no neck or there is no calcar on which the collar sits, then we will use Thompson process. Thompson process is used for basal neck fracture. Austin Moore process is transcervical or subcapital fractures. For basal neck fractures, there is no remnant neck or calcar. For this, we will use Thompson. Thompson, it has similar head, neck, collar is there, but it has no eyelet or no fenestrations. Okay. When you put the bone graft inside these holes, it will hold the processes. There is no such provision for this process. So we will use along with bone cement to hold the process tightly inside the bone. Okay. See, this is bipolar process. Another important one, bipolar head within the head. It has two metallic heads separated by polyethylene liner. Okay. Here the rotation will take place at two sides between the acetabulum and outer ball, and second one is outer between outer ball and inner ball. This is the femoral stem. This is the cement mantle and femur head ball and acetabular cup or liner. So you can see the two balls, femoral head and acetabular shell. This is see two balls, same as Austin Moore prosthesis. Complications are what do you say? Where we will use this? We will use this for fracture neck of femur in young patients. Mm, young patients. Austin Moore processes for older patients like more than 60 years. It is less than bipolar processes for young patients less than 40 years uh, because it has long life and rotation more movement. It provides more movement which occurs at two junctions between acetabulum and outer ball and between outer ball and inner ball. Complications are sciatic nerve injury, loosening and infection. We have already discussed about chisel and osteotome. See the pictures, just pictures you go through. This is bowler stirrup. Stirrup used for traction. We have already learnt spoken about the Steinman pin for skeletal traction. This picture shows the upper tibial pin traction. For upper tibial pin traction, it is the Steinman pin is used along with the bowler stirrup. Bowler stirrup it has two limbs with two barrels for the passage of Steinman pin and two knobs or screws for securing the pin, and it has a loop for traction cord to be applied. The traction cord to which the weight is applied is hung. This is the Thomas splint. This is BB splint. Upper tibial pin traction. Upper tibial pin traction is put over the skeletal traction along with the BB splint, Bowler bronze splint. It has three pulleys. See, this is for calcaneal traction or lower tibial pin traction, and this pulley is for upper tibial or distal femur traction. And this third pulley is for to change the direction or to prevent the equiness of the foot. So interlocking nail. Modney was the pioneer in this one. They will ask. Gerhard Kunstler is the scientist who invented Kunstler clover nail, leaf nail, and interlocking nail was invented by Modney. These are cylindrical nails of various bends and angulations with proximal and distal holes, and principle is same 3-point fixation. And mode of use is if you use only dynamic bolts, means here the two holes will be there. One is circular in shape, another one is oval in shape. See, here you can see this. See, at one end of the nail you can see circular hole and large oval hole. If oval holes are used, then it is dynamic fixation or dynamic bolts are used, and if circular holes are used, then it is static bolts, static fixation. We can say it is static fixation. When you have to use which holes. Dynamic bolts are applied for transverse fractures and short oblique fractures, and for comminuted fractures, absolute fixation by static bolts. There should be no movement between the nail and bolts. For comminuted fractures, we will use static bolts to fix it in the circular holes. This is the dynamic hip screw. Another important one here. This is the screw, dynamic hip screw. This is the barrel, and this is plate, and these are the cortical screws. The plate over the plate, you can see the screws. This is the dynamic hip screw, where the plate has holes in alternate staggered manner. See, okay, like this it will be there. That is dynamic hip DHS plate with barrel. Okay, these are the short barrel size. This is the short barrel size and standard barrel size, and barrel inner diameter, outer diameter. You have to know it thoroughly. They will ask, and we will use the cortical screws are 4.5 mm cortical screws. Whole arrangements are staggered, means alternately side by side. Means even for it is why it is staggered arrangement for even distribution of stress over the plate and bone over the plate and bone when limb is loaded. Hence, prevent implant breakage and weakening of the bone. Angle between barrel and plate is 125 degrees. This angle, 125 to 140 degrees. So normally we use is 135 degrees. And sliding screw. Screw length is based upon the patient. Depending on the patient, we will use the neck and head length, femur neck and head length. We will use select the size of the screw. This is the core diameter. This is the core diameter, and this is the thread diameter. Barrel inner diameter is 8.2 mm, and this is core diameter is 8 mm, and thread diameter is 12.5 mm. It has a slot. See, This screw has a slot inside it, and it has a ridge. Barrel has a ridge inside it, and this slot of the screw will fit inside the barrel, and it will prevent the rotation of the screw. We have already told this. Just see the differences. Head, neck, collar, and stem are there in both this, but neck has eyelet and stem has fenestrations, which are absent in Thomson prosthesis. Collar sits over calcar, and no such provision is there. For this calcar, at least 1 centimeter calcar should be there. Okay. Calcar hole is for antiversion maintenance and implant removal. Calcar hole is useful, and there is no hole. Two stem hole for bone ingrowth, and hole also makes implant lighter. Shoulder fits into the medial aspect of greater trochanter. I have already shown the shoulder. This part is shoulder. This part, this lateral part will sit on the medial aspect of greater trochanter. Greater trochanter. Fixation due to the bone ingrowth, where calcar is left for at least 1.5 centimeters and is deficient, or when it is less than 1 centimeter. Here there are no fenestrations, so fixation is with cement. This is bipolar processes. So we will see the advantages. They will ask increase range of motion, because motion occurs at two levels between acetabulum and outer ball, and outer ball and inner ball, and less acetabular wearing. So long life used for younger patients. Younger patients, durability is more. This is another important part. We have already spoken about strange pins, which will be used along with external fixator frame. These are the external fixator frame, and strange screw parts we have already told. Tip, threaded part, shaft and top, and these are the clamps and rods, rods. This is important. This AVO type rod size is 11 diameter. This one you have to remember. And length of the rods are available from 10 to 60 centimeters. Rods these are available. And for hybrid fixators, then we can both for floating knee cases, or distal femur fracture, along with proximal tibia fractures, we will apply hybrid fixators. Spanning fixators, knee spanning fixators. Then we will use the coupling rods, couplings for rod to rod clamp, coupling for rod to rod clamp, and AO transverse clamp, for example in proximal tibia compound fractures where proximal fragment is smaller. This is ball stirrup we have already seen, and thank you. X-rays will be X-rays and other basic instruments. Other basic instruments will be dealt by general surgeon. General surgery cases like thumb forceps, scissors, okay, artery forceps, hemostats, uh, Alice forceps, retractors, all those will be dealt with general surgery people. And X-rays, next class we will deal with X-rays. See, these are the basic surgical instruments. Forceps, scissors, retractors, periosteal elevator we have already seen, rongers, nerve hooks, dissectors, probes. All these basic instruments will be dealt by general surgery people. This one you have to know. Cheetle's forceps. We'll see in dressing trolley. It will be kept in a transparent glass bottle filled with cotton swabs and Savlon or Sedex, and it is used to remove the dressing material or transfer material from one tray to another tray. Okay. Just we'll see the names. Sponge holding forceps, sponge holding forceps, toothed forceps, plain thumb forceps. These are Adson's forceps. The ends are tips are serrated, and it is a small one. Length is small. This is for thumb grasp. Artery forceps of different sizes, small, medium, and large. Small one is nothing but mosquito forceps. Curved hemostat. Alice forceps. This one you should know. This one is Kocher's forceps. This one also you should know. See that toothed one, and the inner surface is serrated. used during meniscectomy in knee surgeries. This is Alice forceps, Babcock's forceps for delicate to hold delicate tissues like intestines, bowels, all those, and right angle forceps, Lister's sinus forceps like incision and drainage of abscess by Hilton's method, Lister's forceps. See, the two forceps which does not have locking mechanism is the Lister's forceps and Cheadle's forceps. Cheadle's forceps. Cheadle's forceps. Cheadle's means this, it is curved steel and no serrations, no locking mechanism. The shape of the blades will resemble the beak of the bird. Which bird? Cheetle. So the name is Cheetle's forceps. See, this is a bone reduction forceps or bone holding forceps. Bone holding forceps. We have already seen this one. Needle holder. So needle holder is small blades, and joint box is the length of the joint box is equal to the length of the blades, and the inner surface is serrated and has a gutter or a groove inside to hold the needle securely. You should check for this, and then you should view from all sides the instrument or implant. Then only you should name it. You should clearly view the serrations and gutter, then you name it. Don't be hurry in identifying the instrument. Here the towel clips, two types. This one is Bacchus towel clips with locking mechanism. Without locking mechanism, like normal towel clips, that is Mayo's towel clips. This is BP handle, important for NATE exam also. Sizes of blades and shapes of blade commonly used. This one is 11 size, 15 size, and 10 or 20 size blade. Okay, this is the position how to hold the scalpel blade or scalpel knife. They will give the picture in NEET exam and I'll ask which size it is. Scissors, the suture cutting scissors. This one also suture cutting scissors. Retractors, adds and smallest Charles retractor. This is important for orthopedics, and for total hip replacement or hemiarthroplasty, we'll use this Charles retractor. Okay. This is self-retaining retractor, most commonly used for arthroplasty of the hip. Exposure maintains the exposure of the hip area, so the surgeon has an unobstructed view. This is most commonly used Langenbach's retractor. This is a L-shaped instrument with a blade and a handle. Workman's cat paw retractor used for delicate surgeries like fine surgeries, most commonly used in ENT surgeries and in orthopedics for hand surgeries and hand and micro surgeries. These are all the spine instruments. Cobb's elevator to elevate the muscle from the bone. Cobb elevator at the attachment near the spine. Carrington Ranger to remove the bone pieces. Carrington Ranger. Pituitary Ranger's straight jaw. This one is angled one. Straight and angled, two variants. 40 degrees forward jaw and 40 degrees backward jaw. This is another important one. This is stout handle which is hollow to make it lighter, and it has a cup to curate the medullary canal. This is another one. Walkman double-ended curate. This is curate, bone curate. This is double-ended curate. You have already seen all this. And this one is mallet. This is commonly used instrument. Mallet with a wooden handle or a steel handle with stout metal with flat ends on both sides. minus pedicle on the see periostal Farabiev's periostal elevator. You have to tell this name, complete name it completely. This is bone cutter and bone nibbler. You have again these are most commonly used in orthopedics to cut the bones, and it is to reshape the bone nibblers, or to smoothen the bone, or to remove the outgrowths of the bone. It is used to cut the bone during the uh, bone graft harvesting, or make it into small pieces of graft, or cutting bone during amputation. V nail, K nail, Morse screws. So this is Thomas splint, very important one. It has two metallic bars, outer bar and inner bar, and a circular ring which is at an angle of 120 degrees with the inner bar. And it has an angulation. See this picture. It has an angulation of the outer bar 5 centimeters from the ring to accommodate the greater trochanter. Okay, this is 120 degrees, which is making with the inner bar. Thomas. It is initially it was designed by Hugh Owen Thomas for immobilization of tuberculosis of knee, but now it is used for immobilizing fracture shaft of femur during transportation, and for definitive management of fracture femur in pediatric cases. This is the BB splint, Bowler branch splint. Initially, only one pulley was there. This one, later modified by, first it was invented by Braun with one pulley, then modified by Bowler with three pulleys. See, disadvantages like Thomas splint, it cannot be used for suitable for transportation. Advantages are angle of traction. Traction can be changed without changing the traction arrangements. Simultaneous tractions possible means double tractions can be put. This is the external fixator clamp. We have seen the external fixator. Here we can Steinman pin or Schanch pin we can fix. Here AO rod, 11 rod, hollow rods can be passed through this hole. This is the K-wire staple bone nibbler, and this is another important just fixator. Josie external stabilizing fixator for correcting CTEV fracture distal radius, comminuted distal radius fracture, CTEV and distal tibia fractures. Here we can these are the slots for K-wire, Chinese clamp. See, this is a DHS. This is very important. We have already seen this one. This is a plate with barrel, and you have it has a screw with threaded part and screw. Angle is 135 degrees. This is staggered arrangement of holes in the plate. This is the dynamic compression plate. Okay. Means, by seeing the plate, if you see the holes are oval and there are no threads inside, then you can tell dynamic compression plate. Oval shaped holes. This is the dynamic condylar plate, 95 degrees plate. Like dynamic hip DHS plate, it is dynamic hip screw, but the angle depending on the angle only you can differentiate. If it is 90, around 90 or 95 degrees, then you have to say dynamic condylar plate. Or if the angle is between 120 to 145 degrees, then it is dynamic hip screw plate. This is one third tubular plate. See, it is you can it is very thin and narrow one third tubular plate, and it can be moldable, used for distal and lower tibia fractures. Thank you all, and we will discuss the plates and screws in detail in another class, and X-rays will be dealt in another class, and ward ward rounds means whatever instruments or devices you see in orthopedic ward like Thomas splint, Bowler branch splint, mm, those all will be dealt in another class. Okay, there are different types of plates will be there. dynamic compression plate, locking compression plate, all those we will deal in another class in detail. Thank you everyone.